Today we're going to be checking out the Anker 548 power bank. I love to geek out on power banks. I love the brand Anker. They are the world's #1 mobile charging brand. And I've been looking forward to reviewing this thing for a while. Now when I bought it, I figured it'd be a great device to kind of test out and check out and compare up against the Geekery Explorer 100 Plus, which I just recently reviewed on the channel. But when this thing came in the mail, I thought, I don't know if it's the best thing to compare against after all. But we're going to test it out. We're going to check out all the specs, see what it's good for, see what the use cases are for it. And then down the road, if you want this compared up against the Geekery, just let me know down in the comments below. But let's get to it. Hey everybody, it's Chris from FamilyGeekery, and today we're taking out this Anker 548 power bank. And according to the box, and there's not much to see here, the only reason I know it's the 548 is because it says right back here, the Anker 548 power bank. They should at least have a picture of it on the box somewhere, but hey, they save money on their packaging, we save money on their products, I guess. But according to the box, all we know is it's a power bank with 192 watt hours, so we're going to have to take a look at this thing and see what all the different specs are, see what kind of connections are. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and open this thing up. Alright, so no fancy unboxing montage here. I just wanted to open this thing up and see what it looked like and see what it came with. So here it is. This is the Anker Power Core 548 thingamajiggy. And this came in 2 colors, I believe, when I bought it, and I got it on Amazon. This is the green version, and in real life it's showing up a little bit more green than it is in the camera, but it's basically like an army green type thing. So also in the box was an instruction manual and like a safety support type manual thing, and then we got a cheap little cable here, and I haven't opened that up yet, but I think I'm going to be disappointed here. Now, Anker makes my favorite cables of all times. I've got about a dozen on this desk right here, powering up different things, and they are some of the best cables on the market, and this does not feel like it's going to be one of them, but hey, it came with it, it's free, what can you do? But let's go ahead and take a look at the device itself and some of the specs that are included on it. So if we turn this thing all the way around here and look at all 4 sides, you'll notice right away that this is basically purely a DC power bank only. So we've got some USB-A's and some USB-C's, we've got a solar input, but there's no AC input and there's no AC output. So all of our charging is going to be over some DC connection, probably the USB-C connector or a solar connector, and all of our output is going to be over USB also. Now that being said, it does have pretty impressive specs for that, so we'll list those here in a second. But it would be nice if it had, an AC inverter and a 3-prong, 110 volt jack, but that is not the market for this particular device. You'll want to get a bigger one for that anyways, and really for the intended use of this thing, that's not really what you need anyhow. So let's talk about some of the specs. So one of the things I love about Anker products are when you buy a charger, like just a charger that you plug into the wall, if it's got multiple ports on it, it always lists out what the specifications are for a single port and what they are for, combined usage of the ports. So in this case, it's the same thing. We've got a book here that has all the specifications. So let's go ahead and start with the inputs first. So we got this XT60 input on the side here, what they call the solar input, and it's got a input range of 10 to 24 volts DC and 3 amps. So it says 60 watts max. So if you had one of those small little portable solar panels you're backpacking with, then that'd be perfect for this, 60 watts max. As far as charging it over USB-C, it has power delivery charging anywhere from 5 volts up to 20 volts, and it'll take 20 volts all the way up to 3 amps, so basically 60 watts input also. So I've got several different power delivery chargers, and I'll go ahead and test that out as well. Now as far as the outputs go, we've got the USB-Cs on the left here. The one on the top, they're labeling C2 as an output, and it looks like USB-C 2 by itself can go up to 60 watts, so that same 20 volts at 3 amps, taking all the other power deliveries of 5 volts, 9 volts, 12 volts, 15 volts. So basically all the way up to 60 watts, and the same thing with USB-C 1. So the output on both of those are 60 watts if you're using them by themselves. If you use a combination of the two together, it shows an output of 87 watts max. So this is the first time that I've seen this written down like that, and all the other documentation I'd looked at just kept on saying USB-C 87 watts out, and I thought that was going to be just a single port. So if you had something like a MacBook Pro, one of the bigger ones that uses 85 or 87 watts, that would have been perfect for it, but it looks like we're going to be capped out at 60 watts on a single port. Now if we look at the USB-A's over here, it looks like they are IQ quick charge type ports, and we're seeing on here that it has 5 volts at 3 amps, 9 volts at 2 amps, or 12 volts at 1.5 amps, so about 18 watts. Now once you combine that with this, if you use the A and the C at the same time, it's going to go up to 78 watts. That's the 18 plus the 60. And if you use both of these together, it'll do a combined up to 20 watts max. So if you're using both of these plus one of these, if both the A's plus one of the C's, then you're going to get 80 watts max out of it. So overall, you'll be able to charge several phones and tablets at the same time. You can even charge USB-C laptops with the USB-C outputs. 60 watts isn't enough to power everything in the world, but it's enough to power most of the devices out there. Alright, enough talk about specs. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other features that are built into this thing. Alright, so I think you've seen that we've got 2 big buttons here on the front that we haven't talked about yet. One has a picture of like a moon with some lights around it, and the other one says SOS. So on the top here you can see that we've got some kind of a light ring here, and that light ring can actually be turned into a lantern by pulling up on here. So if we take this light button here and just press it once, it's going to turn on the display. Now this is, of all the power banks that I've used of this size, this is the nicest display by far. So we'll get a closer look at that in a second. But just pressing it once turns the display on. After 30 seconds that's going to turn off by itself. But if we go ahead and hit it again, we can cycle through the light being turned on, and then brighter, and then back off again. So 2 different brightness levels, and I know with the lights here in the studio it's kind of hard to see that. Maybe I'll turn those off here in a second, or at least dim them. But then we can do the same thing with the light extended. 1 for bright, 2 for brighter, and then the 3rd button goes ahead and turns it off. Now in addition to using this just as a lantern, the SOS button here will actually let it be used as like a distress signal. So if I press that once, you can see it starts flashing. And in my limited knowledge of Morse code, SOS is 3 dots, 3 dashes, and 3 dots. And what this looks like it's doing is flashing between 3 dots and 3 dashes, 3 dots and 3 dashes. So really I think it would work if you needed to signal somebody, but it's really just saying SO, 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 which again, I guess that's fine. It's going to serve the purpose. I don't think a helicopter is going to come down and land in your camping spot and say, hey, you're doing Morse code wrong. I'm not going to rescue you. But let's go ahead and turn that off. The SOS button also works to change some settings here on the display. So if we double click this, it brings up a display here for the auto screen timeout. Now it says right on there, this is nice, you don't have to memorize this, but if you hold the SOS button down for 2 seconds, it's going to change the automatic screen timeout from 30 seconds to 1 minute to 5 minutes, or all the way up to 30 minutes. And then once you're done with that, you can just go ahead and click it out and turn it back off. So in addition to the lantern, we also have this handy handle here, and it's a pretty decent quality. Nice heavy strap. Now this is about 5 pounds, so this isn't something that you would necessarily pack in your carry-on bag for your airplane flight or something. They may have a problem with that, but it's, like I said, it's just big enough and just heavy enough that you wouldn't want to make it a super portable device. But for camping, throw this in a tent, keep your stuff charged up, have yourself a little light. I think it'd be perfect for that. Now while we're talking about size and weight, I am going to take this Geekery and throw it back up against here just to show you the difference. It's definitely a lot smaller, definitely a lot lighter. This is something that I would carry in my backpack on a flight. So again, if you want a direct comparison between these two, let me know down in the comments below and I'll work on a video for that. Alright, so we covered all the features. Now let's go ahead and get this thing actually charging up and power things up. So let's start by charging it up with the USB-C cable. Alright, so to start things off, I've got a cable plugged into the USB-C input here, and yes, I'm using an Anker cable. And this is just a USB-C to USB-C cable, and I'm actually plugged right into this Geekery, which has a maximum output of 100 watts on the USB-C port. and I'm showing on the Geekery an output of 60 watts, and I'm showing here an input of 56 watts. Whether it's losing 4 watts over the cable, it is a about 6-foot cable, it may be losing some power over that, or it may just be a calibration difference between the two. At least we're in the same ballpark. And it shows us here a recharge time of about 2 hours and 34 minutes charging over that. So it did negotiate about a 60 watt input. So you can imagine this thing's about 28% full with a 60 watt maximum and a capacity that we haven't talked about yet, but it's 192 watt hours. It's going to take more than 3 hours to charge this thing up if it's completely empty. So it would have been nice if it did have a 100 watt input, and it would have been also nice if it came with some way of charging that 100 watts. Anker makes a lot of nice chargers. I have several of their 60 and 80 watt wall chargers, but with a maximum input of 60 watts, that wouldn't have mattered anyways. So just plan on charging this thing up for over 3 hours to get this thing fully topped off from zero. Now, since I've got this thing plugged in here, there was another feature that I forgot to mention, and it is the auto light feature. So if I press and hold this light button down for a couple seconds, we see the word auto show up here, and what that's supposed to do is automatically turn this light on if it loses power. So this is assuming that this thing is plugged into the wall somewhere. We've got this thing set in auto mode, and we lose power. This light is supposed to turn on. And I didn't see it happen. So let me try that same thing again with a different charger. So now I've got it set up again with a basically a beefy tablet charger. So it's showing about a 42 watt input, and this is just a regular AC charger. I'm not using the Geekery at this point. And I've got it set to auto mode. I don't know if the screen needs to be turned off. We got it in auto mode. Let's go ahead and kill the power. And let me kill it from the other side this time. So I'm going to pull the cable out of the charger. And nothing happened again. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe this thing needs to be extended. Let me try that one more time. Let's plug it in. It's charging. It's in auto mode. The light is flipped up here. Let's go ahead and kill the power. And I'm seeing nothing. Now this is not a feature that I think I'd use anyways. It would be nice as an emergency light if you had it set up in a hallway or something in your house. But I'm just definitely not seeing this thing turn on at all. So let's go ahead and forget about auto mode. Alright, so let's go ahead and test out the DC output. We're going to start with one of these USB-A connectors here. And here I've just got a lightning cable that I'm going to plug into an iPhone that is halfway charged. And it's showing an output here of about 10 watts. That's about what I expected. 10 to 12 watts to go into this lightning cable for this iPhone. And we're looking at now, instead of a charging time, we're looking at a remaining battery life time of 5 hours and 17 minutes. And that's based on the fact that it's only 29% charged. So this thing will definitely charge a lot of devices having that 192 watt hours capacity. It'll charge up your phone many, many times over. Same thing with an iPad. Alright, so now I'm going to test out the USB-C output here, and I've got it plugged into this MacBook Pro. Now this is a 15-inch MacBook Pro, which would likely want to have 87 watts input. At least that's what the type of charger that comes with this model. And with a 60 watt output, of course it's going to scale down to whatever it can deliver, and it's going to scale down to whatever the MacBook is asking for. So in this case it says it's outputting about 49 watts and spiking up to 55 there, I guess depending on screen brightness and what this thing is doing. If we start having it streaming some 4K video or playing a game on it or something, it's probably going to draw the full 60 watts. And if we look at the AC charger information here, it does recognize this as being a 60 watt. So not ideal for this laptop, but it will keep it going. It's not going to charge as well as the manufacturer one, but it will keep it going if you're on a camping trip or something. Alright, so let's talk about some of the use cases that this thing might be perfect for. Like I said before, if you want to use it as a lamp and keep it in a tent or a camper for keeping your phones and tablets and even laptops charged up, I think it'd be perfect for that. Even for something as simple as going on a road trip, maybe you get the family minivan and a couple kids in the back seat, If you don't have enough outputs or your cigarette lighter outputs aren't good enough, throw this in the back seat, let them plug their devices into this. That'll keep them going for a long road trip. Another thing that I've been using this Geekery for a lot is just throwing this on the couch next to me and plugging it right into my Steam Deck. So something like a Steam Deck or a Switch or even an ROG Ally, something like that would be perfect. Those things only need like 30-40 watts. This thing will be able to deliver plenty of power to it and keep those things running for several hours. Even at 40 watts, if your gaming machine is pulling 40 watts from it and this thing is fully charged up, you'll get about 5 hours in addition to whatever the internal battery is. Then even if you have laptops, smaller laptops that use USB-C, maybe a MacBook Air or the small MacBooks, or even some Windows laptops that use USB-C, this thing will give it a couple charges, no problem. And now that we know what it's perfect for, let's talk about what it's not perfect for. And I would say, first of all, day hiking, not perfect for that. Get yourself a smaller power bank for day hiking. If you're hiking long enough that you need this much battery, then maybe you need to carry something like this. But for most day hiking, you can get done with just a regular 20,000 milliamp hour battery bank, maybe a 30,000 milliamp hour. And the other thing this thing is not perfect for is if you actually needed to plug in any kind of AC products. If you needed to plug in an actual laptop charger because your laptop doesn't take USB-C, then that would be a problem with this one. If you needed to plug in a CPAP machine or something that uses a AC 3-prong cord, then this is not the device for you. Now luckily a lot more devices are easily convertible to USB-C output because 60 watts is still plenty of power for most devices. It's just a matter of if you can convert that DC to the right type of output connector. Now can you find something this size that does have the 3-prong AC inverter built into it? Absolutely. But that's going to come at a couple of extra costs. It's probably going to cost a little bit more. It's probably going to be a little bit heavier. And if it's the same size, then you're probably losing out on some battery power because you got to store the battery somewhere. But all in all, I love the screen. I love the ports. It's nice that it does have a standardized input solar connector. If your solar panels don't have this connector, I guarantee you Amazon probably has a converter to convert whatever your output is to that type of connector. I think the light is handy. I'm not sure if the auto light is really a big deal. Didn't seem to work for me, so I'm not going to worry about it. And this does fit kind of in the price point of kind of being in between a big battery bank and a small solar power generator. So if you think about something like the EcoFlow or the Geekery products that I've reviewed on this channel in the past, those are going to be in the higher price range than this. And if you think about those, pocketable or backpackable 30,000 milliamp power banks, those are going to be cheaper than this. So this kind of fits right in the middle. This thing on Amazon is about $150 when it's not on sale. And I see it go on sale all the time. I picked it up for $99. That's a pretty decent discount. And that's about what you want to pay for it. I wouldn't pay $150 for it. So let me know down in the comments below if you've got one of these, how you like it. Let me know in the comments below if you don't have one of these and you're looking at it. Let me know if you have any questions. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, I appreciate a thumbs up. Go ahead and check out the rest of the channel. I've got all kinds of reviews on different types of power banks and solar generators and all kinds of other geeky stuff. But I think that's it for this one. I thank you as always for watching. And until next time, peace out and geek out.